Hello and welcome to our Plunge 101 webinar. My name is Jake and I'm here to kind of introduce our webinar to you today and go over just some general plunge knowledge. So before we begin, just a few housekeeping notes. This meeting will be recorded and distributed for future reference. So if you have a plunge captain or somebody who couldn't tune in live right now, you will be able to reference that later. We'll be sending out all the details and slides after the meeting sometime this week. So we'll be looking for an email with that. You'll be able to watch this presentation in full. Just a reminder, if you are new to this, you can use the chat function inside this meeting, inside the webinar, to ask questions throughout. We'll be monitoring those, and if they aren't answered tonight, you will be getting an answer from a program manager at a later time. If you can't hear the audio, be sure to call in using those numbers at the bottom of your screen. So the Polar Plunge, if you are not familiar with it, it's Special Olympics Minnesota's biggest fundraiser. It raises nearly $4 million annually. Delegations get to keep 50% of their funds. And last year, 90 different delegations raised a total of $422,552. So how does it work? Maybe you haven't been to a plunge before, but how it works is that all funds raised support Special Olympics Minnesota and its various programs. Each participant, in order to plunge, must raise a minimum of $75. It does include a t-shirt. We'll go over some of those additional incentive items later on in the presentation, and those are unlocked based on various fundraising goals. And if you don't want to plunge, we do have an awesome option to still raise money called Too Chicken to Plunge, where you can still participate without jumping into the water. Instead, you throw a rubber chicken into the water and follow the same guidelines with that.
Am I good?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No worries.
I don't know what we're doing. I'm going to talk about the revenue share specifically in a little bit. Michael's going to talk you through the website and how to go about all the different steps of registering and getting your plunge team registered, all the teammates registered, that kind of thing. But in general, I want to talk about the revenue share. As a delegation, you'll complete the revenue share application. That can be done by your HOD or the plunge captain. But that's a really important first step, and that application does need to be in our office in order for us to transfer those funds following the plunge into your centralized account. And that application you can get from a program manager, but it's also available on the Plunge website under the resources tab. If you go to that tab at the top and go down in the drop down, there is a revenue share form. And I'll just ask you a few questions about who's going to be on your team and what your goals are and what you do with the extra funds if you raised so much that you exceeded last year's expenses. So really helpful information for us to know. The next step is to actually register your team on the Plunge website and to name your delegation or your team. Know that you can use any team name you want. It doesn't necessarily have to be your delegation name. So if you're the Rave, you don't have to name your delegation on the Plunge website, the Rave, but we do need your 5-digit code at the beginning of your team name. So if you can put that 5-digit code, if you don't know what it is, please ask your program manager. But with tens of thousands of people plunging, when we pull those reports to know who is part of the shared revenue fundraiser, it's really, really helpful for us to have that code in front of there. Otherwise, we just can't find you or your delegation and your plungers in the mix of all of the other plungers that participate in our polar plunges. So that is a key and critical piece to participating in the delegation revenue shares, that 5-digit code in front of your name. So as the example says, there's 06DMA. That is the code for the Duluth All-Stars, but every one of our delegations has a 5-digit code. After that, you're ready to go out and recruit friends and family to be on your plunge team, friends and family to either plunge with you, do 2 chicken to plunge, or to donate to the folks that are plunging on your team. So know that the revenue share, it's very important to know that it's 50% of what you raise online. So if you're bringing those donation dollars to the plunge with you and turning them in, that's great, but unfortunately those don't go towards the revenue share. So when you're out there, recruiting plungers to be on your team or explaining how it works to your delegation, please make sure that they know that the best thing is to have people go to the website, find the plunger, and donate online, because then your delegation is going to receive 50% of those funds. So that's a key piece to that. Tips and tricks. We talked about a couple of these, but again, that application is very critical to the revenue share situation. Only online donations. We do sometimes get the question of, we have a donor who only wants to give a check, or only, they have $20 in cash and they want to give it to you. As long as you have somebody who can maybe go online and put that in on a credit card in lieu of the cash, that way your delegation does get to keep 50% of that donation, because it is only online and it's a very key part. So there are a few ways around that. Choose one plunge location and date that's specific to our revenue share. Your delegation plunges as a delegation, as a team, so they choose the plunge location they want to go to, and you all go. A lot of teams use it as a social opportunity, team building, that kind of thing. The plunge is a really fun place to be. So a lot of teams use it for that as well. But you choose one location. If for some reason one person on your team or a couple of people can't make it to the one that the rest of your delegation is going to go to, contact your program manager and we'll figure out a solution to that. And then as Jake mentioned, the 2 chicken to plunge, but also 5K, all those things affiliated with the plunge are things that can also count towards revenue share. So if you have folks that want to do the 5K instead of jumping in the cold water, or literally just want to throw that chicken in there, not a problem. They can be part of your delegation revenue share plunge team as well. Register on the website the same as you did before, and we will have 50% of those funds dedicated to your team as well. And one thing that's not on here, but generally gets asked, especially by new delegations doing the plunge, is when do those funds get put into your centralized account? We wait until the entire plunge season is done. We have a lot of administrative things we have to do once everything wraps up, and so typically they go in there in late April or in the middle of May is kind of the last date that we shoot for to make sure those funds are in your delegation account. So look for them to show up at that point. But if you have questions along the way, please reach out to a program manager. Happy to help and sort out any issues. And then next, we have Michael from our plunge team, who is going to walk through the plunge website, how to leverage the different resources that are on there and tools that are on there so that you can make the most money that you can in sending out information and not only recruiting plungers, but then looking for donations. So I will turn it over to Michael. Oh, yeah, that, let's see. So go ahead and then screen share as you're engaging. And then do screen share when you're ready. How about that? Okay.
Hello, my name is Michael. I'm on the development side of Special Olympics Minnesota here. I work a lot with the Polar Plunge website and the day of events. I'm going to walk you through here how to register your team. It's kind of just the whole thing of the website, what it looks like, how to fundraise, how to donate, how to get more people registered on your team. I'm going to share my screen with you here. So this is exactly what it's going to look like for you when you're registering your team or when you are fundraising for your plunge efforts. So if this works here, I'm going to click yes, and you will start to see my screen. There we go. Are we good to go? Yeah. All right, sounds good. So what you should be seeing here, and I'll get an okay if it is the home page of the Polar Plunge website. Here you can see we just have the overall thermometer at the very top of the page. how much money we've raised to date, and this is live through money that we've received online, as well as how many people are registered. So we are approaching that 7,000 number as we have our first Cool School happening this Friday, and then next weekend is our big first weekend of plunges. Scrolling down here, just some more information, and then towards the bottom of the page is our leaderboard. So all the fundraising teams and individuals are broken up into those different categories, as you can see, and you can make your way into the top 3 here, which shows you to everyone in the world that's looking on the Plunge website how much money you and your team are raising. So if you are at the point to where you want to register your Polar Plunge team, we're going to go just to plungemn.org. That's this website right here. And click on register here in the top right corner. And in doing that, it will bring you to the registration page eventually. There we go. So this page here, it has all the different steps blocked out. So we're just starting here with step 1. If you've created an account before, so previous year's plunge, you're still going to go to create a new account. And if you've already registered at this point in the season, you've registered for a plunge in 2020, you can click on log into an existing account, and this is the same as your login with your username and your password. But in order to create a new team here, we're going to start with create a new account. Your username can be anything you want. My name is Michael, and I'm just going to make sure that this isn't a real account that we're going to be tracking throughout the year, because I'm not planning on fundraising with this account. But there's my username, and my email will be here. And then we just create a password, whatever you would like your password to be. There are some restrictions to it, as there are with any passwords. I believe it just has to be a minimum of 6 characters, I believe, and throw some numbers and characters in there just so you can remember. I'm just going to do that, and hopefully I type it the same here. And then go down here and click next step. There's also the option to register with Facebook or with your Google account. Just kind of saves some time on typing in all of your personal information on the next step. But this way you're going right through the website here, so then you can click on next step. And here is, these are some options. So if you have created an account in the past with the same email that you entered there, it will prompt you and say, is this you? These are some accounts I created for some of our DJs last year. And it's asking, is this you? If it is, go ahead and click yes, this is me, if that information looks correct. There sometimes are issues with that data carrying over. So if you want to make sure that you don't come across any glitches or anything, it's totally fine just to click no, none of these are me. And that's what I am going to do here. And that's going to open up step 2 here. So that just is going to be basically all of your simple personal information. I'm going to put it here. I'm just going to make things up here. And you're just going to walk through these steps. And let's see, birthday. And your shirt size here is going to be pertaining to your account. So when you check into your plunge, all plungers, as Jake mentioned before, after raising that $75, will receive the Polar Plunge shirt for the year. So this is your shirt size that you will like, and that will be the same size you'll get for the other incentives if you fundraise beyond that minimum level. And then we just ask for some emergency contact information. You can be as generic or specific as you like, but the phone number does need to be legit so we can, in case of emergency, get a hold of someone. But for this testing purpose, I'm not going to do a legit phone number. My mom is my mom. And employer and school, it'd be great if we could have that information from you. I don't believe that that one is a required field, but feel free to put that in there. Just helps us get to know you a little bit more. And then here's some options of how you heard about the plunge. For a lot of people, it's going to be I've participated before, but whether you are familiar with Ian Leonard and everything he does on the news, or you're a big part of Special Olympics with your delegation and you've heard about the plunge before, you can select your option there. And you're going to click on Next Step, and it's going to bring you up to Step 3. So this is where you are going to choose your plunge location that you and your team are going to be plunging at. Let's see, I'll just pick one here. How about February 8th in Woodbury? Some of these plunges, or some of these locations, have multiple events. I'll show you an example of that here. If we click on Minneapolis at the end of February, there's a bunch of different special activities that happen at the Minneapolis plunge, so then you'll just select from those options. But for any other plunge, there's really only the one, so you just once again select it here from the drop down and then check the box that yes, you are doing that plunge. Here's where Jake mentioned about the 2 chicken option. If you'd like to not be freezing cold and jump in the water and stay warm with your clothes on, you can check this and still participate with your team and just throw a rubber chicken in while they all freeze. There's your option there. And then here's our fundraising levels that you have to choose from. $75, like we said before, is the minimum that each plunger must raise. And then it goes up from there, and you'll see that everyone still gets the shirt, and then there's a corresponding incentive along with which level you hit there. And I can talk a little bit more about those at the end of this, but you can just select which fundraising level you would like to hit. Again, this is just for your personal account as team captain or as a member of your team. And once you've selected that there, again, just click on Next Step. And here is where we're going to be either jumping by ourselves or creating a team or joining up with a team. I think for most of us here on this webinar, we're going to be creating a new team. So that's as simple as just selecting I will create a new team. And this is what Kelly was talking about with your delegation code. So it's your area digits, and then the last 3 characters are corresponding to your area. So that's your 5-digit area code. And then your team name is whatever you want it to be. And sometimes if you'd like to make sure that your team is closed off to just people involved with your delegation, you can require a password to join the team. So you can share that at a practice or an event that you have together so everyone can be a part of your team there, but that is by no means required. Everyone will know which team to go to once you tell them, so don't necessarily need a password there. And then down here, after your team name is set, we have you select which group that you are a part of. This is really for some of our larger corporate teams. This is what this is really built out for, but we make sure everyone is a part of the group in case there are some cases where there are a ton of teams, like US Bank here. They have teams plunging at just about every location, but we want to make sure that they're all registered under US Bank. So if your delegation probably isn't, if you're registered in your new team isn't on here already, so it's just as easy to create your group name the exact same as your team name, since you'll just have that one team with your group. So you can name that group exactly the same as your team name up above, and then your category will be Special Olympics Minnesota Delegation. And then once we have your team and group set up, you're going to click on Next Step, and then here is just your review, and here's the copy of the release and waiver of liability. Feel free to click on that and read through it at your leisure, but then go ahead and click that checkbox confirming that you have had the opportunity to go through that, and then confirm registration will bring you to the Your Registered page. So this is your confirmation page. Just has some information, gives you your name again, which plunge you're going to be participating in, and you'll also receive an email with that email address that you registered for confirming this information. We have some gear that you can purchase prior to the plunge. You can shop now, or just go down here to your account. And this is what your account page is going to look like once you have confirmed your registration. So you can see your name here. Feel free to update your profile picture. But this is just your account overview. Gives you your registered events, You're definitely able to register for multiple events, but if you're creating your team here, it's just going to show that first one that you did. Let's see. I get a lot of questions then at this point about people wanting to maybe change their shirt size or update their fundraising goal, or figure out what their team name is and everything like that. So I'll walk through a couple of those things as well. If you're looking to do or edit anything related to your registration, you're going to scroll down here on your account overview and go to your registered events and then click on edit here. Let's see, once it brings us there, then you can change your event here, but we're going to keep that. You can, if you decide that you want to partake in the 2 Chicken to Plunge, you have that option here as well. Here's where you can change your fundraising goal. And then this is just your team information here. That can stay the same no matter what. But just clicking update there. Looks like we have a question that came in of, can I register all of the plungers, or do they have to register individually? That is a great question, because I know a lot of your teams have a lot of people, and getting them all to go online and register themselves can be tough. People are able to register the day of at the plunge. So I guess the short answer to that is not everyone has to register online, but in response to, can I register other plungers? Yes, you can. You can log out of your account here and go through the same process for other plungers on your team. You'll just have to have their personal information in order to create their account, and then you can give them their password and everything like that. Otherwise, it's just as easy to share your team with them, and then they can walk through that same process that you did to create your own account. Let's see, I hope that answers that question. If that's still not clear, let me know and I can walk through that again. But on your account overview, again, here's some links to different resources that we'll hit on in a little bit. Going over to your account settings, if you need to change your password, there's that option. Here's where you can add a little bio about who you are, why you're plunging, change your profile photo, update any personal contact information that you might need to do. Here's where you can change your shirt size. All of those edits can be done under your account settings. Going to, let's see what we want to do next. How about the message center? This is going to be a tool that you can utilize outside of your personal email to send messages to people that you want to join your team or to fundraise to you right through the website. So you can enter anyone's emails in there, separated with commas as it says, and then we have some pre-typed out messages for you to use. So if you're asking for someone to donate to you, once someone has donated to you, you can send them a thank you message. You can send this out to all of your teammates to join your team, or you can click on other here and type in your own personal message. Really, it's just another communication tool that makes it easy so you can do everything related to your Plunge account and your team on the website here. Let me see. If we click on donations here, this is what Kelly was mentioning as far as if you receive an offline donation from a donor, they give you a check made out to Special Olympics Minnesota or the Polar Plunge, or they give you some cash. And if you don't want to add it as an online donation, then you go down here to add an offline donation, and you will be able to signify whether it's cash or a check, type in the amount, put in the donor's information there, and then you can submit that, and it will show up on your page but not in your thermometer. Feel free at that point then to mail in any checks that you have to Special Olympics Minnesota State Office here, or just bring them with you day of the plunge. Another question came up here of, can a delegation do revenue share at 2 different plunges? I would like to talk to Kelly about that to answer that question.
Yeah, so the question is, can a delegation do 2 revenue shares at 2 different plunges? So if that's the circumstance for your delegation, you just need to reach out to your program manager and talk about the circumstances of that, and then they'll walk through about whether that's a an exception that we can make or not, and they'll tell you how to go about that.
Perfect. Thank you, Kelly. Yes, so that's about all that you have the opportunity to do on logged into your Plunge account. If you click on here, right under your name and profile photo, this link, this is the link that you can share to people to fundraise to your page or to get them to join your team. So if you click on that, this is kind of what the public will see when they search your name or find your account on the Plunge website. So it's pretty simple. You can just share, copy and paste from your URL tab up here. It's always going to be reg.plungemn.org/participant and then whatever your username is. And then going down here, this is how people are going to donate to you, is just type in or select any donation amount and donate, and it'll take them through the online donation process. I think that's about it for registering in your account. Looks like we have another question here of, let's see, we set up our team and registered it, but already forgot the 5-digit number. Can we edit on the website? Absolutely, you can. So if you are logged into your team here, or into your Plunge account, and you, let's see, we'll go to your account because that's where you're probably going to start, is on your own page here. If you are the person that registered and created your team, you have this team settings tab on your account page here. And if you click on that, it will show the link to your team page, and you can go ahead and click Edit Team. And then your event will stay the same here. If you need to change which location due to any circumstances, just send an email to either your program manager or to the Plunge inbox, which is right at the bottom of the website here, plunge@somn.org, just saying that you'd like to change the location that you are plunging at, and we can make that change for you, not a problem. But if you scroll down here, you can go team name, and if you have registered your team and you forgot to put that 5-digit code at the beginning, and you now know it, you can rename your team here whatever you want. So if this code was incorrect, it can be anything that you want it to be here, and just type it in. Again, you can update your team summary, so explaining who your delegation is, what you guys are plunging for, what you're all about. You can upload a team photo and then click update, and there's an error. That sometimes happens on this website, and that's okay. Feel free to just email plunge@somn.org if you ever get any errors on the website such as that. But you should be able to change your team name, and once you've registered your team, by no means is that set in stone. We can always make edits to the team name or to which location you're plunging at, anything like that, not a problem. I think that's, like I said, all I have in terms of registration. I've got some more information here on the website that I will share with you. In terms of revenue share, like Kelly was talking about earlier, if you go up to the resources tab here up on the top and come on down to revenue share, this is where you'll find all those tips and all the information regarding what revenue share is. With all of us here, we're going to be in this left column going on the delegation revenue share form, and that's just going to open another tab here, and here is what that form looks like, and you're just going to submit that beforehand, and we will have all that information on file for you. And again, here's all that other important information that we talked about earlier. In terms of incentives and different fundraising levels, if you go up to Plunge 2020 on top here and click on Polar Plunge Incentives, you'll see them shown here. Let's see if I can get them all on the screen. There we go. So here's the shirt that everyone will receive. And then if you fundraise beyond that point, say you hit $150 on your account, you will also receive a 30-ounce insulated tumbler along with your shirt. And say you keep getting more and more donations and you hit 300, then you will get the hat and the shirt. And these items are not cumulative, so if you hit $300, you will not receive the hat and the thermos and the shirt. You will just receive the photos of the, or you'll see the incentives of the images that you see here corresponding with that level. You do always have the option to trade down. Say you hit that $300 level and you have just way too many hats in your rotation of winter hats. You can go down and receive the thermos instead. So you can always opt to trade down, but again, you cannot receive multiple or cumulative of those items, if that makes sense. And if you hit $3,000, which all of you should, again, that's not a requirement, but some people are go-getters and raise over $3,000, then you will receive one of every item seen on this page in addition to your shirt. For some delegations that are registered for Cool Schools, those are school-specific events, which sometimes that is the case. There's just a little bit of a switch up in what incentives you receive there, just based on the difference in those events. But for the majority of us, it's going to be these incentives right here. Let me see what else we have here. Here's a full out leaderboard, more than just the top 3 that we saw on the home page. So if we scroll down here, we have our Special Olympics Minnesota delegation teams. Looks like Fergus Falls is well on their way. They're already at $7,000, and you'll see we'll be showing the top 10 here, I believe, in delegations. So you can work hard, grow your team, and get on that leaderboard there. As far as other resources, if you click on fundraising and recruitment tools, there's a plethora of information here that you can distribute to your team in terms of tips for helping them raise a certain amount of money in a certain amount of time, different kind of pre-typed out things that we've given you to share on Instagram or Facebook or any of your social accounts, different emails, again, that you can use, and different toolkits for you and your team. We have a delegation fundraising toolkit here, which kind of just compiles all of the information on the resources page here. So that can kind of be a good starting point for you as you're working with your other team leaders to get your team well on their way to your plunge. The last thing that I will talk about here is just the shop. There is a few items left that we have available online that you can purchase at any time or prior to your plunge. And then we just received today in the office, and we're working on distributing it out to all of our locations, but brand new merch for 2020. We've got some really cool sweatshirts and blankets and different drinkware and hats and all sorts of different things for you to rep Polar Plunge and Special Olympics all throughout the year. I think that's about it as far as website goes. If anyone else has any questions, feel free to send them in as you have been, and we will address them. But I think for now, that's all I have. I guess I'm back. So now I think you can see me and the screen. So this is still Michael here. I've got some more information on fundraising tools. Like I just showed you there, you can use the online resources that we have on the website in terms of getting more funds raised. A great option too, since you have a full delegation team behind you, make up your own flash fundraiser if you'd like to try to get people in your community to donate to you. If you have some tickets for something or something that you want to kind of use to spread awareness for what your team is doing in your community, you can do that by all means. And really tell your story. It really, we see a lot of effectiveness on the fundraising side for people who are able to say why they're plunging or what their involvement is with Special Olympics. People really respond well to that, and we know that fundraising and asking people for money to donate can be difficult, but it just makes it that much easier if you can kind of share your personal story with it and why you're fundraising. Good. All right. And here's just some information now that we've got you all registered and fundraising money and everything for what to expect for your plunge. Again, on the website, you can always go to the top toolbar there and click on locations and find all the information you need for your plunge that you've registered for. But once you get there with your team, have a check-in plan. So there's a process that we go through of checking everyone in. You can turn in your offline donations if you have any cash or check to turn in. You'll also receive your incentives at that time. Each location web page has a time listed of what time check-in starts. A lot of our locations have a pre-check-in available the Friday or the night before the plunge. So talk to your team, and with your other leaders of the team, you can always go to those check-in events with just yourself or just a few of your leaders on that team and check in your entire team. Sometimes that is easier for people to go receive everyone's wristbands, receive everyone's incentives, and you can distribute them at your next practice or at a time other than right at the plunge when everyone's standing outside in the cold. And we try to make it as comfortable and warm as we can in the heated tents, but I know it can get kind of crazy sometimes, especially if you have a big team, to get everyone coordinated that way. Like I mentioned before too, each location page on the website has information regarding parking and transportation. We offer shuttles at a lot of locations since parking near the plunge site is often limited, so you can check that out. We're adding more shuttle stops as we go for each location if they are offering them, so check back there. A lot of times you'll be at a restaurant or at a store with a large parking lot that you can just park at and then hop on the bus and it'll bring you right to the plunge. And then obviously back afterwards to your car. And a couple things to not forget. Don't forget shoes. All plungers must have footwear on. And if you don't want your feet to freeze, I would suggest bringing a pair of shoes that you're going to plunge in, and also just wear a pair of shoes. So you have dry shoes and, as you can see below there, a change of clothes. So once you're into the water and get out, you'll want a towel and some dry clothes to put on afterwards. A good tip for that, a lot of teams and a lot of groups that plunge, as you saw on the homepage of the website there, dress up, come up with some creative costume ideas. A great tip for that is to wear your costume to the plunge. So you don't have to do any changing prior to jumping in, and then you'll just have your dry change of clothes afterwards. You'll get to the plunge, check in, go plunge, and then you can change and get warm. And I think that's all we have as far as new information. We've got plenty of time here for questions, so feel free to send those in. We'll do our best to answer them in a timely fashion. So thank you for joining us tonight.
I'm just going to hop back in and say thanks. Again, thanks to Michael from our Plunge group for walking us through that. Thanks to Katie Hallett with our PR department for bringing this idea of how to support our Plunge delegations even more. Hope it was helpful, but if you still have questions or have something that's specific to your delegation that you'd like to get answered, please reach out to your program manager. They really are willing to walk through any situation you have or question you have and make your team as successful as they can with your plunge fundraising. So thank you very much. Oh, and again, we will announce the winner of the gift card tomorrow. So that's you'll be put in the running if you stayed with us during the broadcast. But we will announce that tomorrow. So probably via email. So keep track of your email. But thanks for joining us, and reach out to your program manager, please, if you have questions. We're happy to help. Thanks. I'm going to hop back in. We have one question that came in, and I want to make sure it gets answered. But I think it was, do we get 50% of offline checks that come in? So unfortunately, we just can't do that. The revenue share is directly affiliated with the online funds that you get. So if someone says, can I write you a check? If you can get them to do it online instead, that would be really great. You can definitely take their check and still turn it in at the Plunge. That's really great. Your team will get 50% though, only of online funds. So please do what you can to encourage people to go online and support you there. Thanks. We are going to sign off. If you have other questions, please direct them to your program manager. Thanks so much. Good night.